All right, fellas, Black Friday is over, and if you're looking in your wallet and there's just nothing but dust coming out, well, I still have some great news for you because today we're taking a look at a monitor which, at least on paper, looks like it could be a pretty decent budget value display. Now, the display we're talking about today is the Titan Army, Christ help me, B0CKVL7KMZ, at least I think that's what it is, 180 Hz 1440p monitor. Now, the full specs of this thing are, it is a 2560 by 1440, 180 Hz, 27-inch, 16 by 9 fast IPS, whatever that is, 1 millisecond allegedly response time, G-Sync and FreeSync compatible display. Now, this thing does, of course, come with a stand that does everything you would expect, and in terms of ports, pause the screen if you want to know more, but yes, has everything you need there. It also does allow for VESA mounting, but it's kind of awful. Like, you're definitely gonna need some standoffs to make it work. But in terms of price, here's where it gets really good, guys. Now, normally it's around $300, which is pretty good already, but right now it's on sale for just roughly around $240, which is a really low price for these types of specs. But is it actually good? Well, let's start off with the color, and my first impressions were, I mean, it's LCD, it's nothing special, didn't blow me away, but it wasn't terrible. But what about the actual accuracy? And here out of the box, guys, I was shocked because, what? It's actually not that bad. Of course, I was able to improve upon it, and I will have a link to my Patreon in the description below where you can get access to all my ICC profiles and settings for my displays. I highly recommend and appreciate you guys supporting me there, but what about the color volume? This is very, very important. And here it was a little bit underwhelming. We did see just around close to 89% DCI-P3. I mean, it's nothing terrible. It's certainly fine. Nothing wrong with that, but, you know, didn't blow me away. Let's move on to brightness now. This is not an HDR display, so don't expect anything too crazy, but since LCD does have its strengths in terms of 100% window, here it did pretty well, 306 nits. That's not too bad. It is in the upper echelon of my reviews here in terms of 1440p monitors. But what about the 10% window? And it's there at the bottom, guys. 311 nits, because of course LCD, it's not going to be dimming other parts of the screen to boost, you know, small highlights. That's just not going to be happening, and for that reason, we're actually going to skip games because it's not going to be any different. But in terms of the minimum brightness, very important here, and it does get 0.08 nits, which is actually pretty good. I know it's the worst result on the chart here, but it's actually not that bad, which does give you a contrast ratio of what I measured at 3,963 to 1 on a checkerboard test. That's actually not that bad, but where this thing is having some strengths, guys, is in its gaming performance, because take a look at the latency, 28.7 milliseconds. At 180 Hz, it does put it just behind all the 240 Hz monitors that I have tested, so there's nothing weird going on here, and it will give you the good latency that you would be expecting out of a gaming monitor. Now, in terms of its motion performance, which is going to be very important to see fast-moving objects in a game, here you can see at 180 Hz, it's actually pretty good. Of course, it's not as good as the example on the left or the 240 Hz OLED on the right, as that has basically no trailing whatsoever. This one does have some trailing, but it is actually better than the 144 Hz Mini LED M32P10, which I do highly recommend and don't consider to be necessarily that bad in terms of motion for an LCD. So pretty good at 180 Hz. However, at 120 Hz, it does start to break down, and at 60 Hz, it's absolutely awful. This does not have any dynamic overdriving capabilities. Do keep that in mind. You're gonna want at least 120 Hz basically at all times to take full advantage of this panel. Now, in terms of the text clarity, since it is RGB, as you can see, it does have pretty good text clarity, but it is 1440p, so of course, if it was like 4K or a higher resolution, it would be even better. And what would make it even better is if it was a glossy display, because of course it's not. It's using a matte finish. But to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to make a big deal out of this, because even though I really don't like matte finishes, when it comes to budget displays, really, if it allows the display to be cheaper, sure, use a matte finish, whatever. You know, this is not a 4K display. This is not mini LED. This is not OLED. So I don't think it's as important in this price bracket. But of course, if they did choose to make it glossy, that would be better. But in any case, last thing we got to talk about is the uniformity, and unfortunately, not too good here, guys. In a full white screen, you know, the corner-to-corner brightness, there's a difference of up to roughly, I measured around 120 nits from one corner to the other. That is not good. And then it also has some backlight bleed sometimes as well. So this is certainly not going to be the best uniformity in a panel to date. So overall, at $240, is it worth it? Well, let's do a quick breakdown. I mean, you know, in terms of like the color and the clarity and all that, it's not that great. I mean, it's a matte finish 1440p display with all right color. It's nothing special there, but it is actually pretty good when it comes to motion and latency when run at 180 hertz. So, you know, honestly, if you can drive 180 hertz basically all the time, I think at $240 roughly, that's actually a really good deal. And in terms of a gaming monitor, is probably one of the better ones that I've tested around this price point. So I am gonna give it a thumbs up for gaming specifically. If you're on a budget, I do think this is a good option, especially if you're just getting into PC gaming. Whether you're looking to connect a new console, gaming PC, or just need a fast and reliable HDMI cable to connect over long distances, Rupro has you covered with their certified 8K HDMI 2.1 fiber optic cable, available in sizes of up to 50 feet and can deliver a perfect full 48 gigabits per second connection over distances other cables could only dream of reaching. And with 48 gigabits per second of bandwidth, it can easily drive 8K 60 FPS or 4K 144 FPS 10-bit HDR video through its ultra thin, flexible, and durable housing, and it even supports ER. So if you're in the market for a cable that can drive a beautiful new TV or monitor, be sure to check out Rupro on Amazon today.